selected Heinen, Hutchison, and Robitaille, HHR, to conduct the investigation. I'd like to remind you that Mary Heinen, the co-partner of this law firm, is the notorious criminal lawyer who defended former radio host John Gomeshi against his sexual assault trials in his high-profile case in 2016. The fact that the University of Toronto has chosen such a high-profile law firm, such an expensive law firm, to defend and investigate the campus police speaks volumes. They want a strong representation because they know that our evidence for our allegations is ironclad and irrefutable. HHR has since reached out to students of the occupation, hoping to gather testimonies and interview them about the occupation, seeking to determine, quote, whether campus safety response adhered to the best practices of safety and security, unquote, based on a balance of probability standards, meaning more likely than not. The results of this finding will be amassed in a final report, which will be made public by the university very soon. The fact that the university has hidden this private investigation from the public for over a month is appalling. I'd like to remind you that the same officers of campus police who abused and harassed students in Simcoe Hall just over a month ago are the very same officers walking around this encampment, taking photos, surveilling us, and watching over students. I'm going to now pass it on to my comrade to talk more about surveillance and how the campus police, the administration, and the Toronto police are working in tandem to continue to document and violate our human right to protest. Thank you.
And then we also have a statement from the Toronto Police Services, and I quote their spokesperson from earlier this week: "We are not conducting surveillance of the encampment site." I count 4 cameras in this shot right now, not including yours. So that seems to me to be a flat-out lie. We know that Toronto police have repeatedly lied about their surveillance of protests across the city for decades, not just in this moment, but for decades. We also know that the University of Toronto is colluding with the Toronto Police Services to surveil our right to protest. We know this because they put out a statement in the weeks preceding this encampment saying explicitly this: they're developing protocols in conjunction with Toronto police about the possibility of this protest. The University of Toronto claims that they do not use facial recognition on the feed from their cameras, but they do not say that the Toronto Police Services are not doing so. We know they're working with Toronto Police Services who regularly do that. We have security experts at this encampment who have confirmed that some of this equipment on that pole right on my left belongs to Toronto Police.
Hi there, my name is Robin Maynard, RobynmayNard, and I'm a faculty here at the University of Toronto. I'm speaking here today as a faculty member at the University of Toronto and as a scholar of policing and criminalization of racial and social justice movements. I'm naming here today the need to take very seriously the threat and possible human rights abuses to student safety that emerge from the available evidence that suggests the presence of police surveillance with support and collaboration of the University of Toronto administration. Amnesty International and the American Civil Liberties Union and other digital privacy-based organizations have called for an end to the use of invasive surveillance technologies by police, and in fact for these practices to be banned. This is because police use of surveillance technology amplifies already existing risks of the criminalization of dissent and the profiling of marginalized communities, and certainly has no place on a university campus. As stated by the Algorithmic Justice League, face surveillance threatens rights, including privacy, freedom of expression, freedom of association, and due process.
And real far-right forces. I also want to speak to this as somebody who, as I said, I have deep roots at U of T. I was part of an occupation of this building behind you in my first year of university as part of the anti-apartheid movement. We occupied the president of the university at that time, it was Rob Pritchard, and demanded that U of T divest its holdings from companies that were invested in apartheid South Africa. U of T was a laggard on that too, but they eventually did divest. I've also been part of the fossil fuel divestment movement. In fact, I was part of kickstarting it with Bill McKibben in 2012 when I was on the board of 350.org for a decade. So I visited dozens of universities that were part of that global movement that were calling for their universities to divest from fossil fuels. Many were successful, U of T including, also a laggard on that.
We're now happy to take a few questions.
I'm with City News. I'm just wondering, because I know the university will say that there are safety and security concerns, and that's why the surveillance equipment is being used. What is your response to that? If that is a concern, should surveillance be used to kind of proactively take measures against any safety and security concerns?
Sorry, just to clarify, you mean specifically on surveillance being used to address safety concerns?
Yeah.
Proactively using surveillance and working with police is not addressing any real safety concerns. First and foremost, we have very strict community guidelines for our people inside the camp, and we also think that it's kind of undeniable that our protesters on the inside have been abiding by those community guidelines. There's been no violence, there's been no hate speech, none of that. So a proactive measure for those safety concerns seems to be not really what's happening here, because they have no evidence to merit that proactive need. But second is also just the fact that, historically speaking, when we have protest movements that are like significantly marginalized communities, we have marginalized communities showing up on the line. Again, proactive police measures don't tend to work out well. They're not proactive. What they are crackdowns. So when we see surveillance technology that's being used by the Toronto Police Services, it's hard to believe that's being done with safety concerns in mind. It seems far more likely with the historical evidence that we have that it's being done with the possibility of a crackdown that can happen at any minute now, and that they have an enormous amount of data stored on us that they can then use to justify the violence they use when they want to clear us. Because we know they want to clear us. Doug Ford said it in Parliament. So that's how. Yeah.
The university says, this is their property and it's within their rights to surveillance. So what is your response to that?
Our property is a very interesting phrase. This is a university. Respectfully, I think students are part of the our here. And I don't just mean that in like a way of talking about academics in general. We have this thing called the Governing Council. It is the Governing Council's property, legally speaking. The Governing Council has student representatives on it, has faculty representatives on it, has alumni representatives on it. So when the university says this is our property, we say, yes, it is our property. We're on our property. So it's not just there right here. We have a stake in this too.
Do you feel like this surveillance issue might take away from the actual, reason that you guys are here?
100%. The university should stop doing it and talk about demands. Agreed. It takes away from it. Let's talk about demands. That's why we're here. If you're worried about our health and safety, if you have safety concerns, the best way to do that would be for us to pack up and go home. We've told you how we're going to pack up and go home. It's you give us all three of our demands that we have been demanding for months, years, decades. And then, there's no safety concerns anymore. So I agree. It takes away from it.
What kind of progress are you having with the university and having those demands met? Where does the barracks sit with that?
Yeah. So progress is a tough word with the University of Toronto. This is a very conservative, slow-moving institution. We did not come into this encampment expecting an immediate meeting where they give us all three of our demands. What we've seen so far, day 10, is this bureaucratic slowdown of any possibility of conversation. We say that we want to talk about our demands. You're concerned about safety. Let's talk about the demands and we can leave. They say, you need bathrooms. Well, I said this yesterday. There was an entire battle over the bathrooms. We have 4 porta potties inside. We won that battle, but we still have not had progress on demands. So we're here. We're not going anywhere. But progress is something that lays entirely in the administration's hands. If they want us to move, if they want this to move forward, it's up to them at this point. We're not going anywhere.
Have you seen, more people coming in, or has it grown? Has it shrunk? What's the size like now in terms of the encampment?
Well, when we entered, we had, if you can see our socials, we actually had a comparison post between day 1 and 2 days ago. We've definitely grown. We just keep getting bigger. And I think that speaks again to just the moral clarity of our cause. It's kind of undeniable at this point that we are standing on a particular right side of history. So when we keep growing, we just see that more people see that we are here. More people indicate that they want to also be on the right side of history. They want to be able to tell their kids which side of history they were on. So yes, when we see our camp, it's definitely growing. At the same time, we also have a lot of community support on the outside, getting us donations, getting us food. I promise you, none of it is from George Soros or any of those funders. That's not happening here. These are grassroots movements. And yes, the people are supporting us in droves. There's so much support.
Avi, I've been here for 9 days and I've watched a cast of characters come on the outside of the encampment yelling expletives at the students, actually calling you rapists, rapist supporters, terrorists, etc. Has the university ever asked any of you if you feel safe?
No. Unfortunately, no. Like we said, the campus safety that is policing this protest are the very same officers who quite literally made us unsafe, quite literally harassed us hours on end. If the university was truly concerned about the safety of Palestinian solidarity organizers, we would not be having this police presence at our protests. We would be having productive negotiations and dialogue. But we have also told administrators exactly about this, like the people accusing us of being terrorists are quite literally on terrorist watch lists themselves. The university doesn't seem to care. The university seems to think that, oh, maybe if our bureaucratic slowdown measures aren't working, perhaps, I don't know if the university believes this, perhaps they believe that the agitators will get to us. Perhaps they believe that eventually this pressure will get to the students on the inside, the protesters who are putting their body on the line, and maybe they will just pack up and go home. If that is the university strategy, it is failing. Every time we see one of them, we just get stronger, we get more confident because we know what we're doing is correct. But yes, the university has not indicated any of that. What they have indicated is that they need porta potties on the inside, and now we have them.
And sorry, just a quick follow-up. When did you first notice the surveillance equipment? Was that this weekend that you guys noticed it, or was it from the beginning, or?
So the surveillance equipment on this particular area, that camera in particular is pointed directly at the camp. That has been there allegedly because of construction. However, we have been on this campus for months now. As Palestinian solidarity demonstrations began to ramp up, to scale up, have more numbers, have more frequency, we've noticed that this particular spot is particularly symbolic to the university, and we've just noticed that the surveillance equipment has been there, especially after the Simcoe Hall occupation. The university shut down this entire quarter or area. There were campus safety officers 24/7, and access to the building itself was fob access only. It was no longer public. So in our opinion, this is something that has been ramping up, not about just the encampment. This is not about Colombia. This is just about the visible vocal presence of Palestinian solidarity movements in a regular pattern. So that's kind of when we noticed this increased presence of police officers on campus. I mean, what we're seeing now is just an ultimate escalation of that, where they've quite literally invited Toronto Police Services to surveil us. Again, it's their equipment, not the university's. So yes.
Yeah, I think we'll just take one more question and then we'll wrap up.
I'm good.
Hi, I'm from the varsity. So it's been day 10 of the encampment. How is everyone holding up so far in the encampment? Is everyone still lively? Is everyone still going?
Everyone is quite frustrated, but from frustration is productive rage. I think that's a fair characterization. When we entered the encampment, we were energized. We had a very, very cool entry strategy and all of that. But that energy has now died down because ultimately what we're here for is our people in Palestine. Every day the news gets worse and worse. We saw the Rafah operation begin on Tuesday. Those are things that don't dissuade us. Those are things that, again, productive rage. And the fact that the university is, even if we ignore our presence at this encampment, the fact that the university has not made any public statements about the tragedies in Gaza right now, about Israeli military operations in Rafah, explicitly saying that we condemn this and that we stand with our Palestinian students as they face this tragic, enormous grief, right? It's just channeling into more and more productive rage. So the atmosphere on the inside is I would not call it lively. I would call it disciplined, focused, and ready to actually talk about demands. If they don't want to talk about the demands, we're going to get them anyway.
I'm just chatting. The person we were just talking to, he was saying it would be nice to even see a few free the hostages signs. Oh, sorry about that. Is that something you guys have considered just to kind of even out
what, the adding of free the hostages messaging to our thing?
A few signs, yeah. That's what he was saying. It would make a huge difference to Jewish students on campus to see that this is a collaborative
I think an end to the bombing campaign in Gaza would make a huge difference to the Jewish students. From my estimation, a significant proportion of the hostages have actually been killed by Israeli bombs. So I think both of these issues are quite connected.
Right.
In addition, the hostages that were taken history didn't start on October 7th. I want to point this out real quick. There's multiple of these. They're loud, they're obnoxious, they make honestly, if you want, we can just record audio or something. You can take shots.
Okay, no, I'll I'll take notes of what you're saying. So
Okay.
these come on at night every night?
Every night there's
Yeah.
multiple of these. There's one here, there's one there, there's another one across the corner. Loud, obnoxious, noxious. I mean, they're gas, right? And they're aimed specifically into the encampment, into the tents. If you're on one of the tents at the perimeter, it is impossible to get any sleep with these lights on. But they exist, and we persist. Yeah, so these generators have been there since the very beginning. We can keep walking, I can show you some more stuff, but across these roofs as well, we've seen people walking. I can take it if you want.
Oh, no, don't worry. You guys are...
We've seen people walking on these roofs as well, like all hours, campus safety, security, whatever.
Okay.
There's usually a campus safety car stationed right over here. There's usually a campus safety car stationed right over here. At the moment it's not there, thank God. But we've also had reports of those cars having univocal mics in them pointed towards the inside. So that's just further like audio coverage. Those are again univocal mics that the Toronto police uses quite often in protests to pick up on stuff. But yeah, I don't think that stuff certain moments. Porta potty, the same battle of the bathrooms, we won that battle.
So there's four total for the whole
Four total.
encampment?
Yes.
Do you feel like that's enough, or?
We feel like it doesn't matter. We're not here for bathrooms. We're here for demands. Yeah, another one of the floodlights. Straight inside. It's great. I'm so sorry, my friend. Walking fast.
Oh, and then there's another one here too.
Yes, there is. And again, loud, obnoxious, noxious. No sleep. Ain't no rest for the righteous.
That's a cool way to put it.
Yeah. It is nice to wake up every day to have all this historical architecture around you. It sucks that it's been privatized and corporatized.
So
Have you guys taken any precautions after seeing what's been going on in Europe
Calgary.
and America? Calgary, they barely lasted a few hours, right? So I've seen some schools have done some drills in the encampments of like linking arms and kind of huddled together in preparation. Has this encampment done any prep work for what inevitably will be when the police do come?
We are prepped, like we know each other pretty well, we know our positions, we know how we are, like if they're dragging us out, we know how to keep our bodies in a way to resist brutalization.
Yeah.
So that is something that we are actively thinking about. Between day 7 and day 10 is usually when it happens. We're on day 10. So yeah, we're on high alert. I want to point out that like all of these buildings also have surveillance cameras, but these are permanent, pre-existing to the encampment.
Yeah.
Just another evidence of how kind of surveillance that completely inhibits freedom of expression. Another floodlight right there, right on our entry. Loud, obnoxious, noxious. Keep hitting that light. And up there, that's the main one I want to point out to you guys. That is scary. So this is University College, formerly known as King's College. It's the oldest building on this campus and the first building. And up there we have these two cameras. The one on the right, I believe, has been there for a while. I could be wrong. The one on the left is on another wooden pole that seems mobile. Sorry, my friend.
I know.
So it's just the two cameras.
Yeah, I had a shower.
Oh, you did?
From the other side.
Oh, you're ahead of the game.
Because like I was here like earlier.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've had private security at that tunnel pretty much since we started. You can see them right now as well. So we've also had I don't know if I mentioned this, but we've had campus safety officers, non-uniformed, but we know them because they were in our living space, and they sit right on those stairs pretty much constantly, just watching people go in and out, and establishing that they're there. And yeah, so it's not just digital surveillance, it's physical surveillance, and it's posturing. It's a lot of posturing. Hey, we're watching you, we're watching you. Like, we want the university to know that we're watching them too. And otherwise, that is pretty much all. When we do have agitators, they tend to come from here. They tend to come right at our entry gate. We've had some people threaten assault. We've had some people actually assault one of our female protesters, like a 245 man just came up there and bodied her. So if the university is concerned about health and safety, give us the demands and that won't be happening.
This is the main entrance here?
Main entrance. Would you like to go inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. There's a media master point. Everything's good.
Thank you. Hello.
Thanks.
And also,
Would you guys are you guys from media?
Yes.
Would I be able to give you guys like these media passes?
Sure.
Yes, please.
I'm gonna leave this somewhere here.
I have a friend.